So I just wanted to continue a little bit our discussion of this video. There was someone who made a video against Rabbi Harav Hagon Rabbi Yaakov Shapiro, and he pointed out there in the video that Bibi Netanyahu met with the Pope, and Netanyahu said, that Jesus lived in Israel and he spoke Hebrew, and the Pope corrected him and said, no, he spoke Aramaic. And so Rabbi Shapiro was saying once again, Hebrew is not the national language of the Jewish people. It's our holy language. And the discussion went on as to what, in this video that was insulting Rabbi Shapiro, to say, what are you, crazy? Of course they always spoke Hebrew, at least in First Temple times. This is actually a matter of machlokus from the and he made it sound like it's just something the Satmar Rebbe made up. The Satmar Rav pretty much holds that even in the time of David HaMelech, they spoke, the common language of the people was Aramaic, and only and Hebrew was only a holy tongue for holy matters. In order to, and everyone agrees in the Second Temple that was the case. The question is, was that the case in the time of the First Temple? And the fact of the matter is, it's a machlokas. From the Rishonim already, there are different opinions, and one opinion is that in the times of the First Temple, they do they did speak Hebrew, and in the Second Temple, in the First Temple they did speak Hebrew, and in the second they did speak Lashon HaKodesh, not modern Hebrew, for sure not. And the Second Temple they spoke Aramaic, and so obviously, hold on a second. I'll go back to what we were saying. So it's a machlokes. One opinion says that that everyone agrees in the Second Temple they spoke Aramaic. Question is, in the First Temple, did they speak Aramaic or did they speak Hebrew? And the Second Temple, Hebrew was the language of prayer, and even prayers they said in Aramaic, the Kaddish. So the Kuzari brings that Avram Avinu spoke Aramaic for his secular matters and Hebrew for his holy matters. It's brought also in Parshas Beshalach that is called Manhu Kiloi Yadamahu. The call Manhu Kiloi Yadamahu. There it seems that they were speaking Aramaic. And of course, Rashi has a little different of a approach, but some people question if Rashi actually wrote that particular comment. But here you see they use the Aramaic term man, to say ma, which is Hebrew, and the Chumash had to translate the Aramaic word into Hebrew, the Aramaic that they spoke into Hebrew. The maker of this particular video brings this from 2 Kings 18, verse 26 and 27. It says, "V'yomel Yakim and Chilkiyahu v'shevna v'yoyach al Rav Shokei daber na al avadecha aramis ki shemim anachnu v'al tedaber mana Yehudis ba'aznei ha'am asher al achoyma v'yomel eicher Rav Shokei hal adonecha elo shlcheni adoni ladaber es edvar ma'ela haloi al nashim yoshvim al achoyma v'yamar Rav Shokei v'yikor b'kol gadol Yehudis v'ydaber v'yim hashimu dvar melech gadol melech Asher." So here is reference to a Lashon Yehudis, to a Judean or a Jewish language. And he said, don't speak Aramaic. He said, no, please do speak Aramaic. Rashi brings here that the people in the palace understand Aramaic and all languages, but the common people only understand Yehudis, only understand the Jewish language. So the maker of this video wanted to claim that the reference to the Jewish language is Hebrew. I'm not saying it's not Hebrew, but you cannot prove from this that it is Hebrew. The Aramaic that the Jews spoke was a Jewish dialect of Aramaic. Just like Yiddish is a Jewish dialect of German, and Ladino is a Jewish dialect of Spanish, the Jews had their own dialect of Aramaic, which was different than the Aramaic that the Arameans spoke. And so the claim that this verse somehow proves that the Jews did not speak Aramaic it's not true, because what we call Aramaic, even the way Chazal writes, there are many different dialects of Aramaic. The Aramaic that you find in the Shas Bavli, in the Babylonian Talmud, is different than the Aramaic you find in the Yerushalmi, in the Jerusalem Talmud, and it's also different than the Aramaic, and both of them are different than the Aramaic you find in the Zohar HaKadosh. All three are written in Aramaic, to a certain extent, and all three are different, because they're different dialects. And so, what we would say, and the Targumim are often also slightly different dialect than the other Aramaic. So even among Jews, there was more than one dialect of Aramaic. So too, there was a Jewish dialect of Aramaic that perhaps the Jews spoke, and that was called Yehudis. That was like we call now Yiddish. Or, and Ladino is called Judaismo sometimes. Judaismo also means the Jewish language. And so it's a Jewish dialect of it. And Aramaic, though, there is certain other issues with Aramaic. Some say, I've heard even from the Rishonim, that the Targum Onkelos was actually given at Sinai, and Onkelos didn't actually write it. He only wrote it down, but it was something that had been an oral tradition from Sinai, and the Torah was originally given in Aramaic, so the people should understand. That doesn't mean Ber Heitev. And then Hebrew was how it was written for the holy language, because the holy language. All of that being said, with a discussion, and there are other discussions, things that they brought there as far as speaking Lashon HaKodesh. But putting that aside, modern Hebrew is not Lashon HaKodesh. It's very different than Lashon HaKodesh. It's actually a parody of Lashon HaKodesh. It's actually an insult of Lashon HaKodesh. If you see certain words that they use in modern Hebrew that are the same words, they use them to mean totally different things. It's like how I say how, the Mormons use the same words as the Christians use, but they have a totally different ideology. it's even worse how the modern Hebrew that Ben Yehuda invented is an insult to our sacred Hebrew. I remember I was in Mea Sharim in Yerushalayim, in the very religious neighborhood in Jerusalem, and there was a sign that said Tzarchei Chashmal, and someone came along. I saw that the word Chashmal was crossed out, and it said Zeh Sod. I'll be honest with you. I remember I was at a speech once was a Sephardic rabbi, and he says, "Anachnu medabrim b'lashon hakodesh v'lo ivrid ze mashu acher." That he's speaking in the holy tongue and not in Hebrew, which is something the modern Hebrew, which is something different, and not our holy language. So even a Sephardic rabbi who speaks Hebrew recognizes the difference between the holy tongue and the modern Israeli Hebrew. But we'll put that aside. Just one more thing I want to say about this. Excuse me. Is that well, now I don't quite remember. Something about people, something. So Chashmal, to use the word Chashmal, which is a holy word from the Bible that describes an angelic secret, one of the deepest secrets of the Bible, and to use that word for electricity that we use today to light our homes is an insult to this holy word of Chashmal. And so the Haredish Yidden usually will write electric in Yiddish instead of using. I remember Moshe Weinberger told us that, and he said that it's an insult what Ben Yehuda did to use a holy word like Chashmal to describe something so mundane as electricity. And he said it's proper not to use the word Chashmal to describe electricity, but rather to say electric. Of course, some people don't understand. Another example, Rabbi Shapiro brought Agadah. Agadah is a word that means to tell. Agadah usually in the Jewish world means the non-legal aspects of the Talmud, things that contain narratives or ethical teachings as opposed to legal words. In the modern Hebrew, they have like a saying, Zulo Agadah. This is not a fairy tale. So, a word that's to us something very holy, Agadah, to the modern Zionist means a fairy tale. A legend, something that's not a legend, maybe is not so insulting, but fairy tales are really insulting. And that's what it means. It means that in the modern Hebrew means like a fairy tale. And there are many other examples of this, of where the modern Hebrew words actually mean the exact opposite of what they mean traditionally. And it's in order to specifically insult the Jewish religion that they use these words. So even if David, in the times of King David, they did, in the times of Hezekiah, when it says here Lashon Yehudis, that doesn't mean a Jewish. You could argue that it means a Jewish dialect of Aramaic. That's possible, or it could mean Hebrew. But that doesn't mean that we should be speaking Hebrew today. Again, going back to what we're saying, just because something was done in the days of King David doesn't mean that's how we live our lives today. And doesn't mean that's how we should live our lives today. And again, it's ironic that the ones who call themselves modern are the ones who are so anachronistic, and the ones who are always viewed as the anachronists are the ones who are actually truly progressive. But it's not strange, because that's how it is so much in the world, that those who call themselves progressive are really the really regressive ones, and the ones who really have ideas for the future and are truly progressive are the ones who are so often maligned as being old-fashioned, and not for this time, when the fact of the matter is that they're the ones who are the truly progressive ones, more often than not. Not always, but quite often. So thank you for watching. God bless. Please like, share, and subscribe, and comment. All the best.